We have started to record the most recent session of MM2003, Reporting and Writing for the Mass Media for the fall semester. It is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. As of today, the following people of 17 enrolled in this course have websites via Google Blogger: Bates, Briggs, Gunnels, Harrell, Hines, Hunt, McDaniel, Rich, Rinke, Robertson, Roland, Singletary, and Whaley. Those who still need to provide me Google Blogger websites as soon as possible under the hashtag MM2003 are Blair, Miner, Smith, and Tompkins. Again, I need those ASAP. What I'm going to be doing today is going through all of the websites, seeing our progress both on assignment 1, which is your definition of news, and assignment 2, breaking news updates over a 24-hour period. But before we do that, one final reminder for the semester of 2 ways you can access the course videos. First of all, via Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. When you are at this location, go to Menu. Here are the recordings. Today is going to be recording 4. Keeping in mind, actually, this is class session 6, but the first 2 were recorded on Blackboard Collaborate with the purple icon, and as of right now, those are inaccessible. So on the fly, we transitioned to Ultra. When you're at the course listing, this is in the professor's mode. There is the announcement, just in case some of you have had connectivity issues. Tools, Ultra. If you would like to be here live 2:10 to 3:30, such as today, we always start at 2:15, go above to the class, and that is how you join the course room. Very similar to what we were doing on Collaborate with the purple icon. After this class session is over, I will set up on the bottom another live class session for Tuesday of next week. Again, recordings, and that's where you can find in one location some of the data for this course. Also, you can do this. Let me show you my website because Ultra videos are downloadable. Video A, Tuesday of last week. Video B, Thursday of last week. Video C is what we were examining on Tuesday, a run-up to today's assignment, primarily looking at research related to assignment 2. That is at the Reporting and Writing for the Mass Media area of the website. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and that is what you're going to find. Also, for the last time, for the foreseeable future, when you want to access a video, such as Tuesday of last week, in case any of you get behind, do this. I have clicked on the icon from my website, not Ultra. This is what you'll see. Bits and pieces from September 7, 48 hours ago. We have started to record the most recent session of MM2003, Reporting and Writing for the Mass Media for the fall semester. It is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. Today on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra.
Hey, life is just anything that you don't know.
And apparently, Haley, I can be unintentionally devious because when I'm thinking about assignment 1, defining news, it really does depend on the person. Now think about what she said, guys, where her roommate comes in and gives her information. Send out a tweet, but rewrite the lead. I'll be talking about that at the end of class on Thursday. I tentatively have that scheduled to be due 1 week from today. At this time last year, including Jacob Blake with a link. She includes video with a link. Now, sometimes you're going to be writing about trending Twitter topics exactly a year ago. So this is what Carly decided to do. Quote, Twitter is like a wildfire. One spark and everything or everyone is consumed in flames. Like some other folks are not taking the exact tweet and incorporating into the website. They are doing screenshots of tweets and doing it that way. So she's looking here. She's got the Kaepernick graphic there. And I think this is going to scroll back to, and this is the kneeling for the national anthem. And see whether or not Twitter has updated. And you can scroll through to your heart's content. And here's the other thing. For instance, if you wanted to go to a particular publication, and from that particular publication, you could go into its social media feed. Let's right now go to the Washington Post, and I'm going to check this on a bookmark because I don't have it. From its social media feed, it wouldn't be that hard for me to find it. You've got as many opportunities as possible to watch the course videos and then go to the website and look at what your classmates have done. That's the most important thing. Don't worry about grades for the time being. Develop your own writing style. It's not going to be the same for everyone. The nuts and bolts are going to be the same in terms of nice, clean, concise, crisp, factual writing. You will have the opportunity to do a couple of opinion pieces during the term, but for the most part, we are going to be pretty much by the book in terms of facts and information. That's really important to hone your ethical credibility long-term as a media professional, no matter what you do upon graduation from Southern Arkansas University. But we will continue with these assignments on Thursday. It will be interesting to see what you come up with. All of your websites, as I indicated a moment ago, will be on the screen. So let's make sure that we all have Google Blogger websites and catch up in due time. As for MM2003, reporting and writing for the mass media, that concludes the recording session for today. And that's what it looks like when you are accessing video from my website. Now let's come back to me. What I'm going to be doing during the course of the semester, because all of the assignments are going to be picking up, we are going to be working on one assignment after another. But I feel it's important early on to let you know that videos are available through Blackboard and also available through my website because the Ultra videos are downloadable. Let's take a look in alphabetical order today at everyone's website and where they are. If right now it is an empty shell, make sure you get caught up ASAP, because once we get into assignments 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, then many of those assignments are going to be due class period after class period. And it's very important to stay on track because, of course, mass media is a time-driven industry. With that in mind, let's go to the first website in alphabetical order and show you where we stand. This is what Bailey's website looks like right now. And I will refresh this to see whether or not he has posted anything yet, and it is not. Keep in mind, when you click on the profile, many of you who are majors are going to be putting together a lot of different websites, and I strongly encourage you to personalize your blog profile with your name and possibly a brief description at the bottom. But in Bailey's case, he will need to get caught up by next week, and that's what his website looks like as of right now. Let's move on in alphabetical order. This is Jonathan Briggs. And this is what Jonathan has for assignment 2, which is breaking news over a 24-hour period. For all of your blogs, what I have already done is to click on the most recent assignment that you've completed. In his case, breaking news over a 24-hour period. So for all of you, let's just take a look at what you have at this point, at the end of the 3rd full week of the fall semester. He's looking at Ida. Quote, Ida stops for no one. At least 29 people are killed from tornadoes and record-breaking rain and floods. The leftovers of Hurricane Ida has hit the Northeast strong and hard. And remember, we showed you some of those videos from last week. It became an international story because we were looking at BBC video of the event taken from someone's cell phone and posted online. Videos of completely flooded cars along the highway and flooding in the subways have surfaced to social media when a wind-caused rainstorm blew past rainfall records. And oftentimes you're going to be using generic graphics when you're chronicling the story on social media over a 24-hour period. Police have said that 4 women, 3 men, and a 2-year-old boy have all died in individual occurrences of flooding incidents around the city. And then it is further fleshed out in this paragraph. Now you'll notice what Jonathan did is to drop and drag a quote and place it into the context of his blog. So whenever you're dropping and dragging something, oftentimes what's going to happen is it gives the illusion of ticker tape, or in the old days when you had a paper shredder and it only did this. So what all of you will want to do is to go back in and make sure that everything that is cut and pasted is in the same font color and font size as everything else. So obviously in this case, it is a work in progress. When we take a look at breaking news, that's a graphic that he has inserted. When we have the still frame of the new governor of the state of New York, Kathy Hochul, this also is either something that has been edited in or a screenshot, but in any event, it is furthering the story over a 24-hour period, including this photo of someone in a flooded area, primarily in the Northeast. Quote, unnatural scenes have popped up all around the city. Photos and videos of delivery workers trudging and pushing their bikes throughout the flooded streets have appeared all over social media. And if I wanted to send this out as a tweet or send it out on Facebook, at the bottom with the Google Blogger icon indicating we're at the bottom, that shows you how you can do it. So in his case, he is taking the visuals and inserting them around the narrative. And something like that is appropriate. Some of your classmates have put in interactive links, whether it be videos or whether it be interactivity via Blogger or via Twitter, and that's certainly all right. Now, before we go any further, remember, what does Jonathan's website look like as of right now? MM2003 and the name, and that's the way I want them all to be. I have bookmarked all of the websites for this class, and over the weekend, I will create an interactive page similar to what you've seen in previous course sessions. The next website in alphabetical order that I have that I'm going to show you that is already set up for assignment 2 is Gwen. And this is what Gwen Gunnels has for her breaking news updates over a 24-hour period. Now, most of the time, you're going to have these numbered. So I, or individuals who are looking at these the next time I teach the course over the next few years, will have easy access in knowing the number of the project. Britney Spears' father files to end her conservatorship. If you want to put in some type of a headline, that certainly is appropriate. Quote, in February 2008, Britney Spears was deemed unable to care for herself or manage her own finances, thus entering into a conservatorship under her father, Jamie Spears. Let's start at the top. She's got basically what amounts to a peach color. Very easy to take a look at her identifiable style. Then the title of the project, headlines. But here's what I wanted to focus on. She's got a link to the hashtag Free Britney, a link to a New York Times documentary framing Britney Spears. So what she is doing is creating an interactive atmosphere for this. Occasionally, the visuals will pop up. You'll notice they didn't on Jonathan. It all depends upon the style that you have decided for your overall Google Blogger format. Now, as we continue to scroll through, currently on Twitter, news broke that her father, with a link, has asked the judge to end the conservatorship. There have been posts spreading the information and sharing her lawyer's thoughts on her father's decision. So right here, it's opening actually in another window, but it is a New York Times story about Britney Spears. So that is actually a link. And right here, if I click right on her photo, that actually goes to a New York Times story. This looks like tweet your reply. I don't know whether or not she inserted this, if she inserted this by a screenshot or otherwise, but it still provides a nice visual perspective on furthering the story progression. Quote at the bottom, according to Britney's lawyer, it appears that Mr. Spears believes he can try and avoid accountability and justice. And that leads to another tweet, quote, statement from Britney's attorney, who called the filing another legal victory for Britney Spears. And there's a quote, which may lead to another link. Notice that she's not necessarily writing a lot here in between the tweets or the story progression of Twitter over a 24-hour period, and that's okay. We're finding out more and more from traditional and non-traditional news sources. Paris Hilton would certainly be considered a popular culture or non-traditional symbol, quote, so proud and so happy for you, Britney Spears. We're all rooting for you. Listen to my thoughts on my last night's news, and she's got her own podcast. So it is a not so subtle plug for her interactivity with a podcast. And then here at the bottom, quote, there is one thing for certain. This news is a massive step forward for Britney and the Free Britney movement. Britney, as well as her fans, will be waiting for the judge's decision going forward. This case has a long history, and it is refreshing to see a conclusion that is in the best interest of Britney and her future. For more information regarding her conservatorship, here is a detailed timeline with a link of the events leading up to last night's news. And that is, and I will show you this for the record, it is a link among many that is provided in Gwen's story. This is from Billboard, and it is called, quote, Britney Spears Conservatorship Timeline. And it is taking a while to format, probably because of the advertisement in the upper right-hand corner. This link brought to you by Samsung, a timeline of Britney Spears' conservatorship. And this is the timeline itself. Now keep in mind, and there's a video link, the nice part about doing the interactive blogs is that you can use as much of this as possible with video, social media links, so you get the idea. And this goes on all the way, I'm guessing, through 2021. Let's see if we get a 2021 dateline here. As you can tell, this thing has gone on for years and years. April, June, July. Her lawyer files to resign, and eventually it should get up to present day. But this has obviously just been in the news all the time. Decides to step down, lawyer demands Jamie Spears step down immediately, and there's more video as of Tuesday of this week. And keep in mind, I'm recording this on Thursday. For the record, let's go back to Gwen's website. And I'm not going to be doing the interactivity for everyone. Sometimes they open in the same window. In this case, it did not. Now let's take, as we did with Jonathan and as we did with others over the previous week with other assignments, now let's go from back to front. There's a lot of interactivity here. And there's also a link to a video. I don't know if it will open in this window.
I'm just so proud and so happy for you, Brittany. You deserve all the happiness and freedom in the world. And I just want to say that I admire you for your strength and just know that you're an inspiration to so many others.
And that audio goes on. Sometimes the links within a tweet will be audio. Most of the time they'll be video. In this case, that is text which is opening up in another window. So even though this would be more of a popular culture feature story, it does shed some light that many people may not have known about what is a conservatorship and why is someone like Britney Spears still being held over after all this time and not being able to run her own business affairs. That was the link, the headline, as we talked about earlier. And as we did with Jonathan, click on the name. When you go to all of these links sometime next week, that's what you're going to see with Gwen. And the assignments always post in reverse chronological order, so it'll be number 2, and right there, number 1. The third assignment that we are going to be looking at today is from Kaylee Harrell. Again, in rough alphabetical order from those of you who have provided me links to your websites. I think it's important, as I indicated at the outset, to show everyone in real time what you're working on, realizing that because of what's going on in your life or connectivity issues, not everybody will be at the same place. And early in the term, that's not going to be as much of an issue as it could potentially be later on. When you click on Kaylee's website, you'll notice that she's got the snapshot motif. We've talked about this in some of my blogging courses, but it shows you right here that in Kaylee's instance, and I will refresh this because she is still at assignment 1, and she joined us very early during class periods last week and this week. If we wanted to change from snapshot to classic, that's what it would look like. Flip card, magazine, mosaic, sidebar, and there's snapshot. Now from this, we click on defining news and it opens in the same window. Here is how Kaylee Harrell, among other things, is defining news. If you're using this particular motif, whenever I click on the visuals, it will reopen one more time, just to show you what happens. Same thing here. Whenever I left arrow back, it will pop up in the window one more time. So Kaylee is defining news this way, quote, "In today's time, Americans are so contaminated with news. Whether it's what we're watching, reading, or listening to, we are all being filtrated with some sort of message. Long before mankind could write, people have always found ways to share information." And then she has a link to woodblock printing, and she's got a link to the printing press. And remember, for those of you who are currently or have been in MCOM 1003, Introduction to Mass Communication, offered every fall semester, the second communication revolution, according to chapter 1 of the text, is the invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg. The last sentence of the paragraph, quote, "Communicating has been the staple element in our society then, and now more so than ever before. share news, express needs, form relationships, and negotiate conflict. And then at the end, she says, among other things, quote, with the development of newspapers, news content was revealed, but most importantly set in place to thrive and expand, inform and educate. But as times change, the way we express our news continuously advances. It looks, Kaylee, like there's a letter missing right here. As you're well aware from all of my courses over the past 17 months online, I am not only your professor, but I am your editor. So having an extra set of eyes does not mean that I'm nitpicking. I'm just saying you'll probably want to go in and tweak that a little bit just in case that is part of just a letter or a phrase that you wanted to share. And all of these, most of the time, are going to be works in progress where you'll be editing during the semester in one way or another. So that is defining news from Kaylee Harrell. And when I eventually X out of this, from now on, when you click on her name at the website, that is what you're going to see because she is using the snapshot format. For our next person, I am updating it because this has just been, as I refresh it, it has just gone over to a new assignment. Haley Hines is next. And I always do that because right around class time, occasionally people are going to be sending me updates on their blogs. And now that I have everything bookmarked, it's going to help. And remember when Haley joined us live in class on Tuesday, I was indicating that she, like many of you, already on the left-hand side have a photograph of yourself, and then down here have a brief explanation. Haley has the newspaper clippings set up, and as we scroll through, that is her breaking news over a 24-hour period, which has just been posted. That is defining news, which we talked about live with her on Tuesday. So let's go ahead and click on Read More. Breaking news over a 24-hour period. Quote, so much can happen in 24 hours. Let's take a look at a couple of the major trending topics in entertainment and sports that has broke the internet. You'd probably want to say that has broken the internet. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different graphics that tie into her assignment. So let's take a look. Mostly everyone can say, quoting now, that they grew up watching cartoons and will probably agree that they built a connection with the characters of the show. This is exactly the case for the hit cartoon Blue's Clue. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a peek of the video that she inserted into the blog. Remember, what you're doing all the way through is an immersive, interactive style that is going to further story progression over a 24-hour period. So she explains what this is about with a generic graphic. Then she moves on to a video clip. What's it about? Let's take a peek.
Next up, Blue's Clues. It's been 25 years since the Nickelodeon series starring Steve and his buddy Blue hit the small screen, and to celebrate the big milestone, the original host of the first 4 seasons, Steve Burns, took to social media to share a sweet message to the kids who grew up.
I mean, we started out with clues, and now it's what? Student loans, and jobs, and families, and some of it has been kind of hard. You know? I guess I just wanted to say that after all of these years, I never forgot you. Ever. And I'm super glad we're still friends. Thanks for listening.
He hasn't changed at all.
No,
he
looks exactly the same.
He did the show in 2002. 2002 is when he left.
Yeah.
That's when I was at TRL at MTV. But it's the Viacom building, so
Right.
they're in the same building. It's just Steve all the time. 2002,
Yeah.
he went to college and left the show, but he went to embark on a music career.
But his voice
Well,
and presence is just as soothing as
Oh,
yours.
crazy.
I used to watch that with
Bring it back,
Court.
Steve.
Yeah,
Run it back.
she was a little one. And I said, mail call. So, cover.
You can send that to Courtney.
Oh my
so
God,
she
I'm going to.
remembers her.
Be sure to stick around, by the way. In the third hour, Dylan's going to have a lot more on the 20th anniversary of Blues Clues.
Now that video, and let's go ahead and play a little bit of that one more time with the audio down. That is Carson Daly, who is explaining the video clip. So what are we looking at? Entertainment and sports news, discussing Blues Clues. And you're right, look at the guy from 2002 up on top, and then on the bottom, and he does look pretty much the same. So let's move on. To viewers, this was a very sudden action with little or no explanation. A video from the original host of the show Blues Clues was released. Closure that viewers needed with the graphics. This video comes in honor of the show's 25th anniversary, and here's a look at how the young, now much older viewers responded to it. So there's one reaction on social media. I never knew I needed the validation. And directly underneath is a second bit. Thank you for the way Blues Clues helped me be who I am. And then at the bottom, I'm in tears. Steve's back after a very long time. Hashtag Blues Clues. Hashtag Steve. So it's a part of people's lives. Moving forward with the thought of reuniting, many sports fans will finally have the opportunity to reunite to support their favorite NFL teams because, as you're well aware, the season is going to be kicking off tonight. And that's not unusual. The defending Super Bowl champion is usually always going to be in the first game of the season. The wait has been much too long for fans, and quite honestly, many are excited to say the least. And here is a link. It's opening up in a different window, and it is a link to the NFL Twitter feed. Who will raise the Lombardi in LA? And keep in mind, the brand new football stadium in Los Angeles that was opened last year, just like the brand new football stadium in Las Vegas. Last year in Los Angeles, the Rams and the Chargers played to empty stadiums because of the pandemic, and the same with the new Allegiant Stadium on the Strip in Las Vegas for the Raiders, who moved there from Oakland. The Super Bowl is coming to Los Angeles, to the brand new stadium, and who's going to win? That opens in a different window to NFL's Twitter feed. Same thing here, talking about the football season from today. If you can incorporate videos that open in the same window, that's great. Mike Tirico, one of the prime hosts of Football Night in America and also involved in NFL telecasts on NBC, is talking on the right-hand side to Craig Melvin, one of the NBC and MSNBC anchors.
Here we are, of course, the Bucks, the boys tonight. Our buddy Mike Tirico will have a front row seat. Tom Brady, 44 years old, defending Super Bowl champs. Is this it for him? You think this is like?
I don't.
You think Brady comes back?
He can keep going. It's his 22nd year. He can keep going. He's in that good a shape. The way the rules are, you can continue playing into your 40s. He might walk away. I don't know. But physically, he showed last year at the end of the season he could do it as well as anyone. We haven't seen anybody in sports, in a physical sport like this, play it at this level in his 40s. So what we're seeing is a masterpiece, and he goes to get another Super Bowl starting tonight.
And then on the other side of the ball, you've got Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Dak, of course, coming off that terrible ankle injury, the surgery. Do the boys make a comeback this year?
It won't be because of Prescott or their wide receivers or Ezekiel Elliott, their running back. They've got the offensive pieces in the fantasy football league positions, right? Offensive line is not as good as it once was, and their defense was terrible last year.
So what you can see is a sports story is going to blow up today because the National Football League season is starting, and the Cowboys are going to be a natural draw. And because Tom Brady is with the Buccaneers, that's going to be a natural draw as well. And there are going to be, as you're well aware from college football games over the weekend, fans are going to be in the stands. Now, the number is going to depend upon the state that they're in and the COVID-19 restrictions, depending upon the venue, depending upon the state. Here you got KARK, which is the NBC affiliate in Little Rock. Big game bound. NFL season is kicking off tonight. And there is a link. And if I click on this, I'm guessing this will open a different window. And it is. It is opening to the KARK4 News Twitter feed. I believe it is safe to say there are several emotions floating in the air from the sentimental message Steve Burns had for his viewers. And then she says, grab a tissue, dry your eyes. And of course, with the first NFL game in 214 days, pick a team, get a jersey, and get ready for game night. Of course, the NFL wants you to do that because if you get your own game jersey, you're going to be paying a lot of money for it. And here is a link to an NFL PR guy on Twitter. But something like this, if you look from bottom to top, as you're well aware, if I wanted to share this on social media platforms, I could. But notice the story progression, say that fast 3 times, for sports. The NFL season is underway. She's got 1, 2, 3, 4 different tweets with 1 video embed, and then for a popular culture story involving Blue's Clue, you also have a video link and screen grabs. When I click on Haley's website, and when you do, this is what you're going to see. And I showed you that at the outset. So what have I done so far? I have shown you 5 of the 13 websites that are currently available for this class, and I'm going to be doing it all during the semester because I really think that a rising tide is going to lift all boats. And if you can see what your classmates are working on in real time, that may give you some clues as to how you can formulate your own assignments or possibly what you might want to accomplish with your own artistic flair whenever people are clicking on the links and looking at your websites. Next is Chris. This is Chris Hunt, and this is what he has for us so far. This is defining news, and he's got a graphic to go along with it. This is, quote, paid circulation of daily newspapers in the United States from 1985 to 2017 in thousands. Notice how the number starts to crater once we get into an interactive era. 99, Bill Clinton is president. 89, George Herbert Walker Bush is president. 1985, Ronald Reagan is president. So from the time we get to 99, Clinton, and then into circa 05, George W. Bush, and then into this era when Barack Obama is president, the numbers for newspaper subscriptions paid is cratering. But does that number take into account online subscriptions? We left arrow back, and here's a little bit of what Chris has to say. Quote, when most people think of news, the first thing they think of is the old-fashioned newspapers. In a previous class, I told you that it used to be the Magnolia Banner News and the Texarkana Gazette had newsstands in front of the Magnolia, Arkansas post office, and both of those have since been removed. The posts that held them up are still there. Unfortunately for these and all other news companies, the consumption of printed newspapers has been on a steady decline since 1989. Remember, guys, the only printed newspapers in many areas such as Southwest Arkansas that you would see would be Sunday editions of newspapers like the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, or maybe a local shopper. That might be it. Nowadays, most of the news consumed by the public is through social media, and that's true. But you always have to say buyer beware if you're getting information on social platforms, unless it's a social platform from a traditional news-oriented publication. And that's why I encourage you to read everything, but primarily look at traditional publications or traditional broadcast outlets that are now online, or online news outlets that started there but have a lot of repertorial aspects to them. Facebook is the worst out of the main social media sites forcing the company to implement a fact checker system. He's got a link to Pew Research. He's got a link to fact checking Facebook. And then he's got a link to Twitter and the Facebook feed, obviously here with the fact checker, and then the Wall Street Journal Twitter feed. And by the way, remember, Chris, when you go back in, make sure that street is capitalized. Final paragraph, quote, while there are some issues with the way news is manipulated by users, social media is by far the easiest and most innovative way to consume news. I believe there will always be new ways to consume news and media to adapt to society, and I agree. There are technologies that do not exist in 2021 that whenever you get into your 40s and 50s, you'll wonder, why didn't this exist when I was in college? Technology adapts. When you click on Chris's website, this is exactly what you see, this format right here. We move on from Chris to someone who is within the department, but in the three-pronged major of interactive media. Morgan McDaniel is in 2 of my classes this semester, not only an introduction to mass communication, but also in the news writing class. And she has a unique take because of her expertise in graphic design. That is her self-portrait on the right-hand side. Inspired by the fear of being average, that's true. You always want to go the extra mile. Now notice the interactive approach that Morgan has taken here. When you click on her website, that is what you're going to see. When you scroll down and click on breaking news updates, she has a large video starting off with removal of Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond, Virginia. Quote, after receiving approval from the court last week, today was the day set for the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond, Virginia. Many gathered to watch from the front lines. Here is part of that video. As you'll notice, I will mute the audio. In the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, I am resetting it. Bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see this video is provided, and she dropped and dragged it from the AP, the Associated Press. So incorporating video you've seen from others today certainly is an appropriate way of furthering story progression over a 24-hour period, because this is big news in Richmond, Virginia, which at one time was the capital of the Confederacy. And then here you have another video link to the removal. So let's go ahead and play this and check it out. A 28-second video for the public viewing area for the Lee statue removal is now open. So for a lot of people, this was a big deal. Natural sound along with video on the tweet.
Board.
And then it continues on underneath the video, quote, statue removal has been in debate for a long time. Some of those in protest to this statue defaced the base with messages of protest, and there had been issues keeping graffiti off for longer than a few days. People began to post live footage and share opinions about the statue's removal. You say people begin to post. Depending upon the way you're reading this in context, that actually is an appropriate methodology. So she starts off, let's go to the top of the blog. She starts off with video from the Associated Press. Then it is followed by video of the viewing area and onlookers, and apparently someone was carrying a tripod, so there are probably some photographers and videographers who want to get some tight shots of this as well. And then we move on in the narrative to Save Our Statues. Robert E. Lee statue removed. And this is from someone from a Twitter feed who obviously felt that that was not the right thing to do. And apparently I don't hear any audio, even though it is not muted. But that is the statue and is going to be going to a different location. So telling the story through social media with minimal text in an interactive environment is okay. In honor of the removal of the Lee statue in Charlottesville, and that is obviously from a website that is not news-based, but that's certainly acceptable. The statue comes down and people celebrate its removal. That is a tweet from ABC News with a link. The owner of the construction company, on the left-hand side, African-American, hugs his mom following the statue's removal. And here is more video. Crowds cheer as it is removed. That is an 18-second video, but let's play it one more time with the audio up because it shares the emotions that many have in favor of the statue's removal. And then here we've got from a Twitter feed called Pixie Dust, activists from Black Lives Matter with a link gather around the statue of Robert E. Lee before its scheduled removal. It's the largest Confederate statue in the United States. And there is the photo. And then we've got more. Notice that she's got minimal text, but that's okay because for furthering the story progression, the visuals are telling the story. So all you want to do is to put in a little bit of context before you move on. Quote, it begins to rain as Robert E. Lee is cut in half and hauled away in a tarp. And there is a link, and that is Eyewitness News. I'm guessing that might be in Virginia, but don't quote me on that. Here is a video link, and that is Richmond, Virginia, and this is video of the statue being hauled away. I'm guessing this has audio. But if not, that's okay. The visuals will also tell the story. Again, an 18-second video, and there comes the statue. Former President Trump releases a statement about the removal of the Richmond statue. And there is his quote. He thinks the statue is magnificent and calls Robert E. Lee a genius. And that, I'm guessing that opens in another window, and it does. The tweet and the context is opening in a different window. Of course, people share their opinion in response who disagree with the former president. We can't change history, but to hold up a traitor as a hero is disingenuous. I understand why Lincoln decided not to try the Confederate leaders for treason. He was trying to pull the country together. And here's someone else who is responding in an opposite way to the former president. Now let's take a look from bottom to top at what we had from this project. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tweets, and the Associated Press video. Now let's start one final time at the beginning of Morgan's blog for this assignment. How many words is she using here as you scroll through? Not a lot, but that's okay. If you want to create an immersive atmosphere, all you're trying to do with the sentences is create, as I indicated a moment ago, context, and then follow the story progression over 24 hours. So you see it taken down, you see video of it being carted away, and you find responses from those who were against it, like the former president, and those who believe it is appropriate for it to be taken down. Now let's scroll back up to the top of Morgan's blog and remind you that when you click on her name, what are you going to find? That with hello. So in the time we have left, let's take a look at some other blogs. Everything that has been given to me, I will show you today. In real time, we'll probably be pushing this close to 3:30. This is Taylor Rich. This is what Taylor decided to do for breaking news over a 24-hour period. Quote, with one click or scroll on Twitter, you can see the most recent worldwide news that's trending today. Today, according to Twitter's Trending in News page, the hot topic refers to the newest laws in Texas in regard to abortion bans. And it looks like she has placed screenshots that have been edited on the screen from Twitter, because whenever I scroll over them, you can't open them up. Now remember, however you decide to do this, depending upon what style works best for you, from an editing and pasting standpoint or posting, is fine. As long as I can follow the story progression. Some might have more text in following the story progression, some won't. Whatever works best for you. Quote, this breaking news has taken over social media platforms, and with every click and scroll, more hashtags and captions flood the screen in reference to the new anti-abortion laws in Texas. And remember, this basically bans abortions after 6 weeks. Most women, from what I have read and seen, don't even know they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. So the potential consequences in regard to victims of rape or incest or of danger to the mother obviously would come more into play. So you've got a tweet from Philip Lewis, a tweet from American Heartthrob, a tweet from Joaquin Castro. And then you've got a tweet from Massachusetts Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren. Quote, lead sentence, the confrontational topic has moved from a national topic to a worldwide stage in a matter of seconds. Comparisons between the United States and foreign countries have taken over the internet. Next lead sentence paragraph, quote, Texas heartbeat abortion law has caused an uproar across all news outlets, and the social media platforms, such as Twitter, remain prominent in its access to live public arguments between influencers, senators, and regular people. Final sentence quote, the power of news on social media, even over a 24-hour period, demonstrates the immense importance of breaking news and its ability to transform into a trending topic in a matter of minutes. And what you'd want to do here, Taylor, and again, I am your editor as well as your professor. This is to help you out, not being nitpicky. Its would be ITS. It would not be and it is ability, just it's with nothing in between, just ITS. From bottom to top, she includes 1, 2, 3, 4 different tweets over a 24-hour period involving the situation with the new abortion law passed by the Texas state legislature. And when you click on Taylor's link, whenever anyone goes to the website, this is exactly what you will see. In larger text, her name and her first 2 assignments. And from that, and Taylor did a nice job, we will move on to Seth. Seth is not a major. He's been in some of my classes. According to what I have seen from the roster, he is a sport management, sport information major. So I'm guessing in some way, Seth, you have had some background or some discussions with Jacob Pumphrey, who is the SAU Director of Communications, who is a 2014 SAU Mass Communication graduate. So many of the assignments that you see could involve Jacob Pumphrey because he was one of my students and one of my majors. So let's take a look at the website from Seth. What is he looking at? And after his, we still have 4 more to examine before the end of the day. And as we scroll down, you can see that he's got Patton Oswalt cancels Florida and Salt Lake City shows because venues won't require vaccination. It's something that Senator Cruz of Texas apparently does not agree with, but there's one tweet and there is a link to a visual. And as you can see, he is looking at more than one story over a 24-hour period. So let's look up on top. And he is looking not only at the Patton Oswalt's pro-vaccination concept for Florida and Salt Lake City shows, and quotes individuals who don't necessarily agree with the take from Senator Cruz. Here's the second story quote: at least 1 dead after the 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit Mexico. And then he is looking at another trending topic on Twitter related to sports. As we looked at before, the football season begins tonight, and there's probably going to be a very, very large audience for that game in Tampa Bay between the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. As with all of these, if I wanted to share these on social media, I can always tell I'm at the bottom by looking at the Google Blogger icon. So Seth looked at it from a sports perspective, an international news perspective, and a national news / popular culture entertainment perspective, with the concerts by Oswalt being canceled. And when I click on Seth's name, that is what we are going to see for assignment 1 and assignment 2. And make sure you have that listed as number 1, so we'll know that all of these are in order eventually from assignment 1 to assignment 20. So we move on from Seth to Courtney Robertson. This is what Courtney's website looks like. We were examining this format earlier with Jonathan Briggs, and as you're well aware, if you drop and drag data, you're going to have the shredded paper or you're going to have the ticker tape effect. So Courtney, what you would want to do, as I indicated earlier with Jonathan, is to go back in and tweak this in such a way where everything is consistent with the white text on red backdrop. But here you're looking at breaking news updates over a 24-hour period via Twitter regarding Hurricane Ida. And there have been a lot of problems, especially in Louisiana, with challenges from carbon monoxide poisoning, as she issued here. There have been a number of storm-related deaths, nursing home residents being moved to a warehouse in one of the parishes. And she's got a link to CBS News. And her second story involves remembrances of 9/11, with the 20th anniversary of that coming up over the weekend. Again, a CBS News link. And then here at the bottom, this is Loveland. I believe this is Florida. And I saw this on another social media platform today. A 73-year-old lady with dementia forcibly detained received a $3 million settlement, accusing them of violating her civil rights. And as you can see, some of this was cut and pasted from another source, which is okay, because notice that it includes a quote. But you'll always want to, as she does here at the bottom, cite your source. She's got 3 stories from CBS News, one involving Hurricane Ida, one involving a 9/11 remembrance, and then here at the bottom with the lady from dementia. I don't know what this is. Sometimes these websites are going to be works in progress, but it's something that for all of you, you'll always want to make sure that as the semester goes on, you continue to shape and edit your particular websites. That brings us to Alexis Rowland. And there have been a number of you who have been able to join me live, even though it's not a requirement Tuesdays and Thursdays. Among others, it's been Alexis Rowland, Kaylee Harrell, Haley Hines. This is what the website from Alexis looks like. Breaking news updates over a 24-hour period involving a fire in California. You can see that she's included 1, 2, 3 different graphics to go along with the tweets. Quote, the Caldor fire in California started on August 14, 2021, and has already consumed over 276 square miles. She provides a link to the San Francisco Chronicle, and that's what's provided right here in the tweet. It has a paywall, so I'm not going to go to the link and show it to you live, but there is a paywall there. A foil-wrapped home survived the Caldor fire as everything around it burned. So I suppose that is a unique take on putting something in aluminum foil in the oven, because who would have thought of that? Firefighters covered some cabins with foil to protect them from the raging Caldor fire. The home was wrapped in what looks like aluminum foil, prompting some to describe it as a giant baked potato or an oversized plate of leftovers. But if you own that home, it can be the biggest baked potato in the world, but it did save the home from destruction. And it's called a fire blanket. Now remember, up here on top, she's got one of the houses on fire, and there is apparently some of the aluminum foil-like substance being used, and here, that's called the fire blanket. So from top to bottom, she is describing the fire. She is chronicling it in real time, not only what it looks like, but what one of the homes looks like during the fire, what one of the homes looks like after the fire. Quote, a fire blanket is an aluminum foil-like wrap that can protect the item underneath it. These blankets are designed to do this. So they're not allowing the flames to enter, quote, through gutters, vents, or broken windows. A wall of fire rolls down a 1,000-foot slope into a town, and not one home lost. So that shows you that if fire blankets aren't being used all across the United States or in California for these serious fires, it's something that might be used more and more. A professor states that these blankets, quote, can block up to 92% of the heat and 96% of the radiation. I found this article, along with the other tweets, very interesting. I am grateful that there is something that may be able to reduce the wildfires occurring in California. The fire blanket. And that shows you how you can take an ongoing news story and take a different perspective on it. Not just how fire is destroying homes, but how ingenuity through technology is saving homes through what amounts to something akin to aluminum foil. Whenever you click on Alexis's website, that's what you're going to see. And those are her assignments. And that brings us to the last two websites of the day. Lauren Singletary is next. Whenever I said I was going to show you all of the websites that are completed so far for this class, or some of the shells, I was not kidding. When you go to the second assignment for Lauren, this is what you're going to see. We've got the Britney Spears story with 1, 2, 3 different links. Those look like edited screenshots, and that's okay depending upon how you are formatting. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at what Lauren is writing. Controlling and oppressive, her circumstances, according to Britney, with a link. End her conservatorship, with a link. And then she's got an edited screenshot from today's Twitter feed. She sets it up with a link from a statement. Then we've got another edited screenshot from the lawyer, a bond of 47 from Mr. Spears, and down here there's another link, and down underneath the hashtag, quote, Twitter has begun to rally for Britney in hopes she will finally gain her sense of independence again. Until then, we will have to wait for the court to hopefully work in our favor. Free Britney. So that was the quote. 1, 2, 3 different videos. And here at the bottom, we can see the story progression, as we did before with the Britney Spears story. When you click on Lauren's website, that's what you're going to see. And I would probably, Lauren, have you number these with number 1, defining news, and then here, number 2, breaking news. You don't have to necessarily write it over a 24-hour period, but I think something like that would be most appropriate. We have looked at 12 blogs so far today, and that is going to bring us to Baker's Dozen. The last one we look at today is going to be Carlin Whaley. And Carlin is on assignment 1. When you click on her website, that's what you see. If I refresh it, and that's what I did earlier with Haley Hines, and number 1's assignment was replaced by number 2. So here's how she defines news under the link. According to Merriam-Webster, with a link, the news is defined as a report of recent events, previously unknown information, or something having a specified influence or effect. Continuing on, quote, in the world we live in today, we get the majority of our news from social media. And then she's got a link, quote, in a recent survey, 50% of internet users surveyed said that they hear about the latest news via social media before ever hearing about it on a news station. Many internet users will see breaking stories on their feed and go to the news to learn more. Notice what we have from Carlin. 1, 2, and that's a great graphic, by the way. Main news sources split by age, all 26 countries. Online, including social media, radio, print, TV. So the older you are, there's more of a likelihood to rely on TV, print, radio, than social media. But if you're younger, it works in reverse because that's how you grew up. There's the third graphic, social media versus traditional media. Now let's move on. Today, even my grandparents get their news either from the TV or from social media on their phones. Remember that graphic. Younger, you skew to the left, online and social media. Older, you skew to the right, print and television. Continuing on, quote, in today's time, I feel like social media affects the news in a good and bad way. Last sentence, quote, receiving the news through social media does have its perks, like getting our news almost as instantly as the event happens. Last paragraph, quote, as you can tell, social media has definitely changed over the years. Some may view the news as a very important part of their day, and others may see it as a waste of time. Complete sentences here, the entire paragraph. I feel as if the news is a very convenient way to stay engaged in what is happening in our world. As far as the news coming from social media goes, I think you just have to be careful what you believe is true these days. And that's true. And that's why I say ad nauseum. Read everything. Traditional news sources, social media sources. Always consider the entire kettle of fish before you make an informed judgment. So those are, as of right now, 13 completed websites for this class. We're still going to be working on catching up with the first couple of assignments, but I wanted to indicate before we go back to Google Docs and research coming up for assignment 3. It is going to be due on Thursday of next week. So we'll start slow, and then as we get into hometown hard news, hometown feature news, we'll start doing assignments day by day. So even if you can't be with me live, please make certain that you update your materials either before or during our regularly scheduled class time, 2:10 to 3:30 on Ultra. I have a lot of windows open. Next, go to Google Drive. In real-time live, I'll probably run just over 3:30 today, but it's important that we always take a look in real time at the progress of all of your blogs. And for the 4 of you who still need to get them to me, please don't waste time. You need to get those done ASAP. Here's what's coming up. Assignment 3, news leads with story links, probably on Twitter. I'll be taking time on Tuesday of next week to talk about that and give you a lot of different projects that people have done in the past. That story, that bunch of news leads is going to be due on Thursday of next week, September 16th. The following weeks, we'll get into hometown hard news, feature news, campus crime, campus hard or feature news, and as we transition into public records, these assignments are going to be due on a much quicker basis because remember, we've got 20 projects and 20 will be changed eventually to wildcard with visual journalism being the last project that you work on. I think we're doing a good job so far expanding your creativity and looking at your storytelling ability from an immersive interactive blog with a lot of links, whether it be a link to a website, a link to a social media feed, or a video link within the context of your blog. That's going to help as we move on during the semester in terms of your overall creativity as a news reporter and a news writer. By this time on Tuesday, I will have posted on the website something very similar to this. But it will be fall of 2021 with the names Bates, Blair, Briggs, Gunnels, Harrell, Hines, Hunt, McDaniel, Miner, Rich, Rinke, Robertson, Rowland, Singletary, Smith, Tompkins, and Whaley. All of these interactive links will go directly to your websites. If I don't have a website from you yet, it will just be your name in black text. And that's what you're going to be looking at for the next week. And then the last bit of interactivity today will be going to Ultra. Starting from the top, accessing the menu, at Tools, with Ultra, the vertical bars indicating menu, go to Recordings, and eventually Recording 4, which will be today, September 9th, will be available right there, and I'm always starting at 2:15. That probably is not going to change. So just look for it. Or as I showed you before, because these videos are downloadable, let me see if I can show you this without actually downloading it as we wrap things up. So for instance, this was Tuesday of this week. Notice right there that I can watch it or download it. So I will download today's class session. In addition to letting you look at it on Ultra, you'll have the opportunity to see it on my website. And then here, if you want to join us live, you'll have the opportunity, because I will create a session for next week, 2:10 to 3:30 on Ultra. So as we wrap up the proceedings for today, we're off to a very positive start with the first two projects. If you can join me live Tuesday, Thursdays during the 2:10 to 3:30 window, that's great, and I can talk to you live. If not, please make sure that you do two things. Always watch every last minute of every last video. And then number two, always work on a creative blog style. Take a look at all of your classmates. Take a look at what we've done in previous course sessions with all of those links dating from fall of 2020 to the fall of 2015. There's a lot of quality information that you can look at. And as we have seen today with assignment 2, breaking news updates over a 24-hour period does not necessarily mean you have to write a lot, but you're thinking outside of the box in being a creative media manager with a visual flow to your stories, with sentences or short paragraphs working in between to further story progression along those 24 hours. Tuesday of next week, research for assignment 3, writing Twitter news leads and posting them by Thursday of next week on your respective blogs. We'll talk about that, look at a lot of projects. Follow me on Twitter, because I'll probably, by this time next week, send out a link to something I think was an excellent project related to assignment 3, either from the fall of 2020 or the fall of 2019. Let's keep up the good work. As for MM2003, reporting and writing for the mass media for the fall semester. That concludes the recording session for today.